The San Francisco 49ers, one of the hottest teams in the NFC, traveling to freezing-ass cold Green Bay. It's going to be below 10 degrees. Feels like 0 probably. It's going to be another cold one. We got the 49ers, who have only played in one cold game, 46 degrees in Seattle, and they lost that game. So it's going to be an interesting one. I fully expect Aaron Rodgers and the Packers to whoop some ass tonight. That's just my opinion on it. I liked San Francisco last week, but I don't like them this week. Anyways, Ellie, how's it going, man? Welcome to the show, everybody. Ellie, what's going on with you, man?
Not too much, dude. Just kind of getting ready for this day of football. I'm excited. I like having football on Saturday and Sunday, so I have a little bit to watch on both days. But I'm kind of with you, man. Like, I don't think this game really should be all that close. Jimmy G is not doing well physically.
Yeah.
And I think as good as the Niners have been recently, I just think that they aren't as good as the Packers. This is going to be a tough test for them. I just don't necessarily see them winning it. So it should be an interesting game.
Here's the thing with Green Bay that's really interesting. I know we're talking DFS, so we're usually talking offensive players, but Green Bay is getting back a ton of their defensive players, like stars, like all pro dudes. You got Yair Alexander coming back, Zadarius Smith, Whitney Merciless back, as well as getting Randall Cobb back. And then you got David Bakhtiari coming back, who he came back last week, but he's been out the whole year. They're set up really well. They've had a bye week. They're well rested. You know, Aaron Rodgers is going on TV shows talking and things like that. But I think they're focused and they're well rested. I fully expect 35 points out of them tonight. And I know it's cold, but look, we saw Josh Allen go ham last week in a cold game, and 2 weeks ago when they were playing at home, they did well too. So I fully expect this to be a relatively high-scoring game. So, anyways, before we get too far into this, we're doing a giveaway. We are literally 10 subscribers away from hitting our goal. Yep. So when we hit our goal, which we will tonight, I know it. Tomorrow on our first show, we'll give away, and I'm gonna add something in. So we've got the Joe Burrow. Let's see if I can get it to focus. Joe Burrow base select HGA 9. I'm gonna add in a Justin Herbert. Why not? You're not selling these and buying your down payment on a house or anything, but these are pretty good cards to add to your collection. So
not today anyway.
Not today, anyways. Yeah.
Let's give it 7 or 8 years. Both those guys could end up. Hey, dude, I'm dead serious. Both those guys are special. They could easily be all pro for the next 4 or 5 years.
We really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for the views. Hit that subscribe button. Like I said, we'll give this away tomorrow on the show. Let's get into this, man. So
let's do it.
So man, this is gonna be cold, but I have a firm grasp as to how I think this game is going to go. San Francisco going into Green Bay, obviously. It's a 47-point total. Green Bay's 5.5-point favorites. I think this is pretty dead on. I agree with this. 5.5 points at home. That's pretty good. That's we expect Green Bay to win. I think most people expect them to win. Any chance that San Francisco comes out and puts an upset on this team? I mean, the 49ers have won 3 straight playoff games against the Packers. Can we make it 4?
I don't know, man. I think the kind of piece here that we got to keep an eye on is how does this defense look now that they're getting some of their pieces back for Green Bay, right? That's been some of their inconsistent spot all season, and it's going to be pretty interesting to see Jared kind of matched up with Deebo Samuel. So I am excited for that, but I don't know, man. I'm too skeptical for San Fran, and I don't mean this in a knock in any way. And I know they're division rivals for the Cardinals, right? But I actually want teams in our division to be good. It makes us better when we're winning, right? Yeah. So an 11-6 record is more impressive. But San Francisco, they're overachieving. They still have a lot of holes. They still have some stuff that they need to get over, and I'm really concerned about their secondary. I know you really only have to cover Devontae Adams, but nobody's been able to do that in like the career of Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I just don't feel like this is a good spot for San Fran. We're very likely to see another Bucks Packers NFC Championship game.
Here's the scary thing about this particular matchup, DFS wise, is there's like 6 players I want to get in almost every lineup. Like I'm really liking like a lot of players tonight. You have to make some tough decisions. I think my main decision I'm going to start off with is just eliminating Jimmy G. It's a little risky because he's 9K. So he's cheap for a quarterback. So it's a little bit risky. You know, if he comes out and scores 15, 16 fantasy points, it might be bad for me at that price tag. But I've got to try to eliminate somebody. And I can't just be like with the field on every single player. I've got to make some bold choices tonight.
And Debo, like, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but Debo gives you some interesting ability to fade Jimmy G too.
Yeah.
Just the ability to go out and get 2 rushing touchdowns or a rushing touchdown, 60 rushing yards really impacts that.
Well, look, quickly, before we get into injuries, the Packers' rush defense, generally speaking, not great. They're 29th in yards per carry, 4.7 yards per carry they're giving up on the season, 109 rush yards per game. Now, like I said, they're getting back some of their defensive line guys, their defensive players, so that could help. But look, Elijah Mitchell, what a great rookie. I mean, they drafted Trey Sermon, and it ended up being Elijah Mitchell that had an absolute great year. 4.7 yards per carry, 87 yards a game, and he's got 5 touchdowns this year. So Elijah Mitchell is very interesting. I just personally, I don't know about the game script. You know that, you know they're going to run the ball a ton. This is a run first team. They're going to involve Elijah Mitchell. They're going to involve Debo in the run. They're going to probably do some gadget plays this week. They've got really nothing to lose. Nobody expects them to win this game. But Elijah Mitchell scares me a little bit because I don't know, you know, if it's a 2-touchdown lead for the Packers in the fourth quarter, I just don't see him getting the ball much. Maybe Jermichael Hasty's in the game a little bit more. So that's something to talk about when we get to running backs. Let's talk about injuries. The only injury we really need to talk about, besides the ones we talked about, you know, the offensive line and defense, is MVS is doubtful. Doesn't seem like he's going to play this game. Obviously, as we get closer to lock, I think it's 6:50 or something like that is when or 6:45 is when the inactives come out Eastern time. So keep an eye on that. But most likely MVS is not going to play, and we're going to assume this entire show is without MVS because he's doubtful. I don't think he's going to play. Mohamed Sanu, there's some reports that he could be activated. I don't think he will be. I think it might even be too late at this point for him to be activated off the IR. So I don't think he's going to be active. And then you got Randall Cobb coming back, which is kind of big news with MVS out. I think Randall Cobb is a good value play, and you know that Aaron Rodgers is always looking for Randall Cobb when he's in trouble, especially in the red zone. Anything else you're seeing injury wise?
No, that was it. It was pretty clean.
Yeah, which is nice. And look, not to get into a whole nother subject, but it's interesting how once the playoffs come and there's a lot of money on the line, that COVID sort of goes away in the NFL. So we really don't have. Last night, a Friday news dump, they kind of put out some new parameters for their COVID testing and everything. So I don't think we're going to have to really worry about any last minute COVID issues. But always keep an eye on that before the game and stay on Twitter. All right, let's freaking do it, man. Break it down. Getting into the breakdown here. We're going to start out with quarterbacks like we usually do. We're going position by position. If you guys are skipping around, it's all good. I highly encourage you to try to watch as much as this is possible. There's a lot of good information here. It allows you to make your own opinions and not just rely on other people to tell you exactly how to play your lineups. Aaron Rodgers, 10.8K. Jimmy Garoppolo, 9K straight up. Jimmy Garoppolo's creeping into that Ben DiNucci range like we always say. It's risky for me to fade him, but like I said, I gotta make a couple bold choices, and I just don't think he's gonna be the guy that ends my night. We'll have to revisit this tonight after the game and see if I'm wrong. But thoughts on? Look, you gotta play Aaron Rodgers quite a bit. Is there any reason to maybe be a little bit under the field on Aaron Rodgers in a game like this where it's gonna be cold and we think they're gonna run the ball quite a bit?
Yeah, so there's a couple scenarios here when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, right? I like him for the most part. I'm gonna have as much exposure as I can, of at least 50-60%. Um, but I think there's gonna be some interesting builds, just because I personally think this game script is gonna be a little bit more towards the Niners trying to get back in it. Again, I see them being down by 10 points at some point, and I can see it happening pretty quickly. Um, in a situation like that, you might be fine just getting like Aaron Jones and Aaron Rodgers, or I'm sorry, and Devontae Adams, and they're running it back with four 49ers. So then you would want Jimmy and probably Debo, Kittle, Elijah Mitchell, or whatever it is. So that would be when I would prioritize Jimmy G over Aaron Rodgers. But I think that comeback potential kind of opens up some interesting scenarios on being able to fade Aaron Rodgers. So again, I'm not going to be crazy with it, but I think you can build some 2-4s and kind of just get the core pieces from Green Bay and just run it back with as many Niners as you can.
Are you interested in doing any zero quarterback lineups tonight?
No, probably not. It's the playoffs, man. Like at the end of the day, the only reason why
Don't talk about
the only reason one of those guys wouldn't be in the optimal is if it was just an absolute blowout, someone got hurt. But for the most part, like it should be at least one quarterback in the lineup. I don't think you need both. Jimmy G being at 9K is kind of frustrating. I mean, if he was priced like 9,800 to 10,000, like I think it'd be a little bit easier to fade him. But his ownership's coming in really low too, and given the injury situation, like I can't imagine Kyle Shanahan would really play him if he thought that he could negatively impact the game. So I actually think it might be worth going a little bit over the field on Jimmy G just for the leverage that he presents at 9K and what his projected ownership is early.
Look, Jimmy G, the last 3 games, 5 interceptions, sub 90 rate. Hasn't been doing great.
Yeah.
And look, they're going up against a pass defense in the Packers. Like I said, missing players, still 7th in yards per attempt and 9th in yards per catch. Now, when you look at Jimmy G overall, I think he's number 1 in yards per attempt or yards per catch, something to that effect. Basically, a lot of the yak, the yards after catch from Debo is really helping, inflate Jimmy G's numbers quite a bit. A lot of that is rushing after he catches the ball, and it really shouldn't be padding his numbers, but it is. All right, so let's go to running back here. Let's start out with Green Bay. So we've got 2 guys we really interested in here. So Aaron Jones 9,200 and AJ Dillon at 5K. AJ Dillon's got the tree trunks that are perfect for a game like this. He's $5,000. They're projected pretty close together. I think a lot of the field is going to gravitate towards AJ Dillon just because he's a big guy. It's a cold game. They're favored. But I really like Aaron Jones tonight. He's 9,200. I think people are going to forget about him because you got to fit in all these high-priced guys. Aaron Jones is the kind of guy that'll get you 3 or 4 targets out of the backfield. We've seen him score 3 receiving touchdowns this year and a rushing touchdown. I'm highly confident that even though he's somewhat splitting, well, he's actually not even splitting. He's getting less carries than AJ Dillon at this point of the year. I still think he can pay off, and I think he's a great captain option as well because I think his ownership will be low. So thoughts on these 2 guys? Can you put them in the same lineup together too? You can, right?
Yeah, that was going to be the first point that I brought up. I love handcuffing both these guys, Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. To your point, I think this bodes well for them, the weather in particular. And again, I also think that this team is going to be ahead by a little bit more. So I think that they're going to have some opportunity to establish the run. Aaron Jones, I'm with you, man. I think he's going to get slept on just because his output hasn't been there. But kind of what we were talking about for the Cincinnati game, right? This is the playoffs. Like you're gonna put your guys out there. You've saved and kind of limited your players all season long, and you use the depth during the season so that you guys have a little bit of fresh legs now. So I think they're going to unleash Aaron Jones and they're going to use him how they need to use him. And again, I think we run into one of those scenarios where you want to keep the ball out of Debo Samuel's hands. The easiest way to do that is to have a ground game and take time off the clock with your drives. And we know Aaron Rodgers will sit there and milk a clock under 5 seconds, snap count or snap clock under 5 seconds every single time. So I like him, man. I'm going to have a pretty healthy exposure to him. I think you can run 4, take Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, Adams, and Dillon. Obviously, there's going to be price consideration there, but I love him. I think you can get a bunch of handcuffs. You can play him individually. Aaron Jones, you can play A.J. Dillon. And I don't know if you're seeing different ownership on Osimo, but from what I'm seeing, dude, like I think they're getting slept on, both guys. Like, so I'll be playing them.
Yeah, I personally am going to have at least one of these guys in every one of my lineups. I'm not scared to do that in a game like this, and potentially double up in quite a few lineups too. All right, so let's go to the other side. San Francisco, a very run-first team. You've got Elijah Mitchell at 8,200. Good price for him. He's probably not priced as high as he should be simply because of this matchup, I think. A guy like that should probably be in the 9K range. But they had to price somebody down. You can't put everybody up high priced. Kyle Juszczyk, 2,600. JaMychal Hasty, 1,600. And then you got Jeff Wilson, 2,200. I think the only guys you really got to consider here are Eli Mitchell and JaMychal Hasty. And Hasty is even risky at that. He's 1,600. I think he's getting 20-something% of the snaps. He's not really getting a lot of opportunity because you got Deebo Samuel in the backfield quite a bit, taking away those rushes. Yeah. So for me, it's either Eli Mitchell or bust. And maybe a random. I like to see Kyle Juszczyk in the $1,000 range, not up in this $2,600 range. He is the kind of guy that can absolutely score a touchdown, maybe even 2. But I think he's worth a random stab. Same with JaMychal Hasty, random stab. I don't think I'm going to have any Jeff Wilson though. So how do we handle this, man? Eli Mitchell on paper, great matchup. He's the number 1 back on the heaviest running team in the NFL. You just play him, right? But it's kind of scary, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah. So I like Eli Mitchell at that price, man. It's going to be hard not to have a decent amount of exposure to him. And the way that the offense is kind of working out, I like he might actually be kind of starting to get into the same volume and opportunity areas like George Kittle. You know what I mean? So I like Eli, and there's a good chance that this could be a solid game for him. You were talking about the Packers getting some of their defense back. I think that boosts their secondary and their pass defense a little bit more. Zadarius Smith is a great pass rusher. I'm not necessarily sure how well of a run stopper he is, but again, I think the game plan from this side is going to be pretty similar to the other side, right? We talked about keeping the ball out of Deebo's hands. You want to keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands too. So I think there's a really good opportunity for Elijah Mitchell to get a really solid workload here. And to be completely honest with you, like I don't even hate him at captain at that price for a couple stabs. He is going to be really low owned. And I think it's a good spot for him to crush, right? He could end up with 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. So if that's the case, then he would be the optimal captain there. But as far as these other guys, I'm with you. I think you can take stabs on Hasty. I think you can also take stabs on Jeff Wilson Jr. If they're down by 10 points, we don't know what kind of rotation they're going to have at the running back position. They might just be running screens and leave Wilson and Hasty back, though they're the whole fourth quarter. So, excuse me. Don't get crazy with it. I think 1 or 2 lineups at most with either guy is going to be plenty. But if you have a game script that works with them, I don't mind getting a little bit of exposure to him. But I'm not playing Kyle J at 2,600.
Yeah, he's priced too high. The 49ers offensive line is ranked number 1 by PFF. So they got a solid offensive line going up against a very solid defense as well. So who knows what's going to happen? Who knows? All right, anything else to talk about here? Look, I agree with you with Eli Mitchell. I think he's going to go under-owned, and especially a captain. I think he's a good option at 8,200. But we'll see. We'll see. All right, let's go over to wide receivers here. So let's go with 49ers. We got Deebo Samuel, 11.2K, expensive AF. But you got to try to fit in, man. This guy touches the ball so much, and he he can get on the he can score points in so many different ways: passing touchdowns, receiving touchdowns, rushing touchdowns. I wouldn't be surprised if he did all three in this game. He's 11.2K. He's going to be a very popular captain. I say don't overthink it. You try to get as much Deebo Samuel as you possibly can. I would rather have, if I had to choose between Deebo and Devontae, I would slightly choose Deebo just because of the amount of volume that goes through him with this offense. And you got Brandon Ayuk at 6,800. Don't sleep on him. Juwan Jennings, 4,800. A guy like Trent Sherfield, even at 200, might be our only real $200 guy I'd consider playing. So talk to me here, man. Are you going to have any more than one of these pass catchers in your lineups besides Deebo?
I don't mind getting some exposure to Brandon Ayuk. He's with Deebo doing all this random shit. He's really turned into kind of just the number one overall receiver, right? He's the guy who's going to get the majority of the targets. Like I don't know how to describe Deebo Samuel because he's not a wide receiver for me, right? Like he's just a wild card. So I kind of see Brandon Ayuk as just that flanking receiver, the guy on the outside. He's going to get most of the work there. 6,800, I don't need him. I don't know if man. I was actually going to say that. I don't know if you need to prioritize him in a flex. I think you might be fine just running a couple lineups with him at captain. Should be able to stack him, Deebo, and probably Jimmy G, which kind of interesting to me. But other than that, I don't think I'm really getting too deep into any of these other guys. Like I know Trent Sherfield at 200 is a $200 guy that we could play. But I'm with you, man. I just don't know that I'm going to be getting there today. It's the playoffs. They're using Trent Sherfield if they're running some gimmick play because they're down or something. I think they're going to prioritize Deebo, Brandon, and Kittle, and then do what they need to in the run game. So I'm sticking with Deebo, Brandon. I don't even know if I'm getting to Juwan Jennings at that price tag. If he was 2,200, that'd be fine, but not at 4,800.
I'll bring this up now since we're talking about wide receivers for the 49ers. Look, the 49ers are the best red zone team in the NFL. They're ranked number one. When they get in to the red zone, they absolutely, most likely will score. So you're talking about guys like Deebo, you're talking about guys like Kittle, even some Ayuk. We've seen some end arounds run to him too. Both of these wide receivers will run the ball occasionally. So I really like Samuel and Ayuk a lot. I'm going to try to prioritize Ayuk a little bit more because I think he's going to go under-owned. Don't overthink Deebo Samuel. Just play him. And if you don't want to put him at captain, just lock him into your flex. All right, so let's go to the other side here. We've got a guy like Devontae Adams at 11.6K. This is the kind of situation that he will absolutely dominate. So thoughts?
Yeah, I don't even know what else you're supposed to say. I like Devontae Adams. Play as much of him as you possibly can. He should crush. There's no secondary in San Francisco, right? Their ability to stop the pass comes specifically from their incredible defensive front. So I don't know that they're going to be able to get the same amount of pressure. Even Nick Bosa got banged up last week. So I wonder how that's going to – I'm going to have to look that up. I forgot about Bosa, that.
He's back. He'll be back. He had concussion. I forgot to bring that up. That's my bad. He was in concussion protocol, but he's cleared. He will play for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that's interesting. I wonder how good to go he really is. But again, play Devontae Adams. I think the only other thing that we really need to look at is, do we want to play Lazard or Cobb, right? Like, I don't think I'm getting anybody else. I don't plan on MBS playing. But with Lazard and Cobb being so closely priced together, I honestly I guess right now I'm leaning towards Cobb, just given the ownership discount that he's getting too on initial projection. So I think you're right, man. I think Randall Cobb could get some volume. That's Aaron Rodgers, one of Aaron Rodgers' historically favorite targets, obviously outside of Devontae Adams and James Johnson or whatever his name was back in the day, or Donald Driver. There we go.
James Johnson.
What the fuck? Yeah, man. Devontae Adams. I think you get two of the pass catchers. I think this is a game where if you're not playing Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, I think you can grab Rodgers, Adams, and Randall Cobb and be comfortable with it.
I'm going to focus on the second and third string kind of pass catcher guys in the captain spot a little more so than I usually would, because I really want to just jam in studs in the flex and not have to worry too much about punting in the flex. I'd rather punt at punt, in quotation marks, at captain with a guy like Randall Cobb, even a guy like Lazard, Ayuk, those kind of guys who are priced in that more reasonable range, because you're really only... It would not shock me. We've seen Allen Lazard score 2 touchdowns. We've seen Randall Cobb score 2 touchdowns. If they do that in a game like this, they probably will be the optimal captain because of their price. So, typically speaking, I'm going to want guys like Devontae Adams at captain. I'm going to want guys like Debo at captain. But with their price, you're going to have to make a tough decision with some studs that I don't want to personally make. All right. Tight ends for the Packers. Josiah DeGuara, 3K, and Mercedes Lewis back now at 1,200. Mercedes Lewis usually he scares me because I want to play him every single time because they price him so well. He's at 1,200. He's a little bit higher than he usually is. He's usually in the under $1,000 range, even $200 sometimes. I think you got to consider some of these guys here. DeGuara. 3K is a really good price for him. He's the main pass-catching tight end. We saw it week 18 against the Lions. He got a touchdown, 3 receptions for 66 yards. I'm not super interested in him, but, Robert Tonyan, he's big shoes to fill. They haven't figured out that guy to fill the shoes yet, but they do love throwing to their tight ends in the red zone. So you got to consider both these guys. We don't have a lot of value, right? 3K and 1,200 for 2 guys who could catch a touchdown. Are you interested in them?
Yeah, absolutely. I just to be clear, I'm not interested in both of them in the same lineup, just in case anyone's taken that. But no, I don't mind taking stabs in either one of these guys. I think Mercedes Lewis could easily end up with a random bullshit touchdown tonight. And Josiah DeGuara, again, he could easily just end up getting decent work. And at 3K, he's going to be the starting tight end. I don't mind running him out there. If he catches a touchdown and has 2 receptions for 25 yards at 3K, there's a good chance that he could end up in the optimal, right? Yeah. We haven't found any clear value that we may necessarily be comfortable with. So if he does end up with that, then he's going to be required. Same with Mercedes Lewis. If he hits a touchdown, it'll be in the optimal. But yeah, I don't mind either one of these guys. I'll have exposure.
All right, let's go to San Francisco. George Kittle, 7,200. Price so low, DraftKings just wants us to lose all of our money as he gets another 5-point performance. But he's George Kittle, 7,200. To me, he's going to be my highest exposed captain. If garbage time comes down, he's still in play. Red zone opportunities, even if this team, if it's a close game, he's still in play. There's really not a game script besides him getting injured that I don't like him in. So 7,200, put him at captain, put him in the flex. He might end up being in 80+% of my lineups because he just priced so well, and we know what George Kittle can do. We know what he can do, man. Here's the problem. Look at the last 4 weeks, under 6 fantasy points every time. But then look, you start to go back. You see a 15-target game. You see a 12-target game. You see a 10-target game. We know what he's capable of. It's recency bias, man. He's having a rough time. But can this be the game that he steps up? I hope so. Because if he doesn't, I'm going to lose money. It's just too tempting, right?
Yeah, look, man, 7,200 George Kittle. Like, play him. I'll play him at 9,200 or 11,200. You know what I mean? So 7,200 just means he's $400 more expensive than Ayuk, which honestly, like, I get it. Ayuk's been heavily involved, but man, this is the playoffs. You're going to need to get your guys the ball.
Yep.
I think Kittle's going to get all kinds of love here at 7,200.
All right, so let's talk about kickers here. Mason Crosby, 4,200. Missed quite a few field goals, but he's also had some very clutch moments this year. Robbie Gould, 4K. Robbie Gould's been looking really good this year. It's cold as hell. The ball's not going to travel as far. But look, this is the kind of game, in my opinion, that when you get the points, when you get the opportunity to get points, you take it. So are we interested in kickers any more so? We do have some more value in this game, more so than we did in the Cincinnati game. You're just going to be right around the field, maybe 10-15% with these guys?
Yeah. I mean, I think if the Bengals game is any sign, like you taking the underdog isn't necessarily a terrible way to kind of prioritize your kicker. So I think Robbie Gould is a decent option here, just considering that he might have to take it. They're going to take points early. Now they might lose an extra attempt here towards the end of the game when they start going for it because the Pack's up decently. But at a 5.5 point spread, like there's a decent opportunity for both these teams to be taking points when they can. So I think being with the field is probably the safest bet.
And like I was saying, San Francisco is one of the best red zone teams in the league. So more often than not, they're probably going to score a touchdown once they get into that red zone. So maybe Robbie Gould gets a couple less opportunities than he typically would. And, if they're kicking from the 37-yard line or something crazy, maybe they just decide to go for it in a playoff game. All right, so defense, this is interesting here. The Packers, 4,400, 49ers, 3,400. Both of these teams cause turnovers. Both of these teams have great pass rush. You got to try to fit these guys in, especially in a cold game like this. I know we talked about that this could be a high-scoring game. Doesn't matter. The 49ers can give up 35 points, and if they strip sack Aaron Rodgers and score a touchdown at 3,400, they probably will be in the optimal as one of the only 49ers, that you need in your lineup. So are you interested in defenses here today in a cold game?
No more than usual, but I don't mind taking stabs at them here and there, just on game script specific builds. If I'm getting AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones, then I may want Packers defense and I don't know, Aaron Rodgers, and try and jam in some other pieces. But I'm not prioritizing defenses tonight. I think it's just too unknown given what these offenses can do.
So I apologize I'm a little distracted. Apparently Derrick Henry's not in the game. Is he actually hurt? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, he looked like he hurt himself pretty bad. He just stopped running on a play.
Of course. That makes sense. All right, so fades. I'm going with Jimmy G. Ellie, you're not really choosing one player to fade. If you had to choose with a gun to your head, who would you be under the field on in this particular game?
Man, I thought it was going to be Jimmy G, but I guess probably Devontae or Debo. It sounds like blasphemy, but I just don't know how you're going to be able to put them in every single lineup. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just to be clear, you're not fading. I mean, you're not unchecking them. You're just going to be a little bit under the field probably with them.
Yeah, because and dude, Kittle's just so well priced that I'm going to be prioritizing him a little bit more than I initially intended to with like Debo, right? So I don't know.
All right, so let's do our captain choice.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
You're going with George Kittle, obvious choice to me as well. I actually had him as well here, but I wanted to mix it up and give another option for the viewers. I think Jones is priced well enough. He's the kind of guy that can break a slate and where you need him at captain in order to even cash. I like him tonight. I think a lot of people are going to be drawn more towards AJ Dillon because of his price. We still know that Jones is the starter, and Jones is going to get targets out of the backfield. I'm down with Jones tonight. Who are some other options that you're thinking here? I mean, we got to consider guys like Brandon Ayuk, even guys like Lazard and Cobb, because they're priced so low. I like all those guys.
Yeah, the only other guy I think I might add to that is Eli Mitchell.
Yes.
I think he's an interesting captain play.
And you know what? I actually had Eli Mitchell as my choice, but it just scared me a little bit. I didn't want to lead the viewers astray because it's kind of a risky captain option here. All right, so let's get to our lineup build here. So if you're just joining us, we're doing a giveaway. All you got to do is comment down below your favorite captain option. And if you had comments earlier in our show well, you get an extra entry. So there you go. We're gonna scrape all the comments for both videos today, and we'll give it away tomorrow. We're giving away the Burrow, and we're giving away the Justin Herbert Select 2020 rookie cards. Let's get into this. So let's just optimize and see what happens. Devontae captain, Equiminius St. Brown, Dillon, Kittle, Aaron Jones, and Rodgers. I don't hate it. I'll save it. But let's build our own here. So let's go chalk here. Let's build a chalky captain. So let's you want to go Debo or you want to go Devontae, and then we'll start to get into our cheaper guys.
Let's start with Debo.
All right, Debo Samuel. Do you want to go A-Rod or Jimmy G?
Let's go A-Rod.
All right. Now, when it comes to running backs for Green Bay, we got to try to fit in Aaron Jones or A.J. Dillon. I think we're stuck with A.J. Dillon in this circumstance because of the pricing on Samuel, right?
Yeah, let's go A.J. Dillon.
All right. Now, can we fit Devontae Adams here? We can. It gets a little risky, though. You're at $5,800 for 2 spots, about $3K per spot. We got to find our value now, right? We got to go down to a guy like Mercedes Lewis or Equiminius St. Brown.
I think Mercedes Lewis is the guy here. I'm not comfortable with St. Brown, bro. I mean, at
Yeah.
$400 though, I guess that's not terrible to take random flyers on.
So now you're looking at a 1.5 here because you've got Randall Cobb at 4,600. Hey, it seems crazy, but these are kind of lineups that win it, especially if the Packers blow out this team.
Yeah.
Let's do a little bit more of a balanced lineup here, though. So we got Rodgers, Dillon, Adams. Let's try to force in a 49er that we are comfortable with. There's just not a lot of options value-wise for 49ers. You know, Brandon Ayuk at 6,800 is almost the lowest I'd go besides, not lowest, but comfortably besides the kicker. So do you want to throw in
Robbie
Gould?
Robbie Gould? Yeah.
1,800. So that gets us JaMychal Hasty, that gets us Mercedes Lewis, it gets us some of these punts. I mean,
I don't mind Mercedes Lewis in this.
JaMychal Hasty, Mercedes Lewis. Let's try to build. This is the problem with having with having Debo Samuel here, is you got to fade a bunch of dudes. You just do.
What if instead of Adams you go Aaron Jones? What does that do for us?
Let's try this. Aaron Jones. That probably gets us. We can't quite get Eli Mitchell. We could probably. We can get Kittle, but we're severely punting here at the end with $1,000. That gets us into the St. Brown, Trent Sherfield area, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
This is why I'm going to avoid these guys at captain. You know, it's risky, but I just don't want to punt more than once in these lineups. Let's go down to George Kittle and see what we can get here. So George Kittle, do you want to do Aaron Rodgers or Jimmy G? Or both?
Let's go Aaron Rodgers.
All right, we got to do Devontae and or Debo, right?
Let's go. Honestly, let's go Devontae and Eli Mitchell.
Devontae, Eli Mitchell. That gets us 8,600. We're in a good spot here, man. We could do a guy like AJ Dillon. We could do, there's a lot of options here.
Can we do Dillon and Segura? Do we have enough for that? Yep.
DeGuara, not Segura, but
Saguaro.
close enough.
Yeah.
Hey, that's nice. That is a 2-4. Not bad.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Then if you want, you can do the same build here. Just go 4-2, swap out Rodgers for Jimmy G. Let's see. That gives us.
Let's pull these guys out. So you got Adams, Mitchell. We
Throw in Ayuk. Let's see what that looks like.
Brandon Ayuk, 6,800. That leaves us 3,600.
And we're down to Saguaro Cactus again.
Saguaro Cactus. Or 49ers defense. No, you can't quite. Oh, yeah, you can. Yeah, so you can get DeGuara, 49ers defense. It's a lot more promising, Kittle. You got to make some tough decisions. You could pull Elijah Mitchell out and pop in. Probably
put in Debo. Pop out Elijah Mitchell and throw in Debo.
Let's try it. Debo, 7,400.
Throw in AJ Dillon.
AJ Dillon, that gets us 2,400. So we're right in this Jeff Wilson, JaMychal Hasty range. Don't hate JaMychal Hasty. Or there's Mercedes Lewis as well.
What if we go down to Mason Crosby off of AJ Dillon?
4,200. That leaves us 3,200. That gets us DeGuara now. So
Interesting.
It's a 3-3. So we see that Kittle it's a lot easier to build with Kittle, and you still have some decent upside. So let's go down to like Randall Cobb. Or actually, you know what? Should we do an AJ Dillon captain?
Let's do it.
I think he's going to be popular at captain simply because of his price, and you know the game script seems to work in his favor. So if we got AJ Dillon at captain, do we want to go Aaron Rodgers here?
Well, if you think he's going to be chalky, I think we might be better off going handcuff. Let's go AJ Dillon,
Love it.
Aaron Jones, and then run it back with 49ers if we can.
All right, so let's go with the Debo. Let's go with Kittle. Where does that leave us?
Jimmy.
We can even get Elijah Mitchell here. 6,700 for the last spot. This is great. That gets us almost Ayuk, but that gets us Lazard. That gets us Juwan Jennings or Cobb, those kind of guys.
So what if you come off of Mitchell and go to Jimmy G?
Let's try
Where does that
it.
put us at?
Let's try it. Jimmy G, it'll still put us at about the same area, I think. Yeah, so Lazard, Juwan Jennings, even Randall Cobb, even a Packers defense, that kind of thing. So these are the decisions we're gonna have to make, man. It's not fun. You got anybody lower than that you'd consider playing a captain, or should we just go try an Aaron Jones captain as our last option?
Yeah, I think Aaron Jones is our last option. I'm not going to be getting any other guys. AJ Dillon's the lowest I'll go. Randall Cobb maybe, but I think that those are going to be pretty specific lineups for whoever's got Randall Cobb.
Aaron Jones, I want to throw in Aaron Rodgers. Let's fade, what's his bucket? Tree Trunks. And let's go with Devontae. This is the holy trinity for this team, and it has been for years. Let's see if we can fit these guys all together. It's going to be tough. So maybe maybe a George Kittle here. Maybe or instead of George Kittle, you could go Eli Mitchell. Who do you think we should go with here? Probably Kittle, because we're gonna need that salary savings, right?
Yeah, Kittle, and then you probably have to go Gold, and then the tight end.
Can't quite get him, but you can get Ushwitz, you can get JaMychal Hasty, Mercedes Lewis. It's all these same guys right here around this 2 to 3K range. So, you got a JaMychal Hasty here. Look, this is going to be another tough one, man. We saw it tonight, with this Cincinnati game. That was tough. This is going to be tough. DraftKings is not making it easy. There's no value out there. We usually have like a $1,000 guy that we're like, yeah, just throw him in. It's going to be great. We don't have that tonight. So, any thoughts on, now that we've built some lineups together, we've gone over all the players, what jumps out to you, man? We got to kind of go mid-range, like Kittle or below at captain to feel super comfortable about our flex plays, right?
Yeah, man. I think you got to go mid-range captain. You still got to be willing to get a little bit different there, because it's going to be fairly balanced with the mid-range captain. So people are going to kind of cluster to a similar lineup style. Yeah. Right. So still don't be afraid to kind of get a little bit weird, leave some salary on the table. And then I think instead of doing our normal wrap up and stuff like that, I actually do have one tip. I think tonight you want to focus on specifically not maxing out your salary. I think leaving $1,000 to $1,500 on the table might be required for a slate like this, just because we don't know what's going to happen. And worst case scenario, you're duping with literally 150,000 other people. These are massive contests that they're putting down for these showdown slates. So get weird, man. Have fun. Don't do anything I want to do gambling.
Get weird. Yeah, I agree with you, man. Don't be afraid to put Dillon and Aaron Jones in the same lineup. Don't be afraid to fade Devontae Adams and or Debo in a couple of lineups. Don't get too crazy with it, because those Adams and Debo in the same lineup is going to be hard. You're going to have to make some tough decisions. Yeah. You might have to go zero quarterbacks. They're just priced up so much. Obviously, they're the best plays. We got to try to hope that maybe one of these guys just has an average game today. All right, guys, remember, we're doing this contest. Go ahead and comment down below your favorite captain, your favorite value option. We'll give that away tomorrow. We appreciate everything. Hit subscribe, like, join the Discord. We appreciate it, guys. We will see you tomorrow for that first game. What is that first game here? That is LA versus Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Hey, it's going to be great. All right, we'll see you then.